Candidates can start filing for statewide office in next year's election next week on September 11th. A few candidates have already declared, including my next guest, a Republican who's entering the race to unseat incumbent governor and Democrat Tina Kotek. Danielle Bethell is a two-term Marion County Commissioner, a fifth-generation Oregonian. She's been head of the Keizer Chamber of Commerce, a former school board member, and a business owner in Marion County, as she and her husband own Bethell Plumbing, which specializes in new construction and remodels. Welcome to Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here today.
Well, Governor Kotek has not declared for re-election yet, but she's already considered the front runner, of course. Why are you running?
Well, because I'm ready for somebody to lead this state in a new direction. I believe that we've not had somebody in the governor's office in my career time that actually understands what the job is. And the job specifically is making sure that the safety net systems of care and the progress of the state are healthy and stable, and that has not been the case for several decades.
Republican House Minority Leader Christine Drazen narrowly lost to Governor Kotek in 2022. We all know this is a blue state. Drazen hasn't said if she's going to run again, but if she does, would you support her or continue with your campaign?
I supported her heavily in 2022, and I admire Christine. She was a great candidate that worked really hard, and if she does declare, I'll continue on. She and I are very different in our experiences in life and in work, and I think it's important for voters to be able to choose who they want to be the voice for them going forward.
The governor is trying to get her transportation package passed, and it's had a rocky start, that special session. What's your view of the package that will be considered in the Senate when they come back on September 17th?
Yeah, I'm really opposed to it. I've been opposed to the governor's transportation policy theories since she's took office. One of the things that the governor has not done since she's become the governor is work with local systems like counties and cities to really understand the fundamental challenges that we have at the grassroots level. The ODOT package does not get us across the finish line. It doesn't even begin to address the giant issue in that agency. The fact that they have misappropriated or lost, in some person's perspective, over $1 billion is completely unacceptable. They have different types of project implementation procedures that need to be reformed. ODOT itself is filled with many passionate people who do good work in Oregon and across the state, and we need to be able to bring that in. We need to tighten it in, and we need to be able to work locally to get the biggest outcome for the least amount of money as possible. And what she's doing right now through the LC2 that's transitioned into the new House bills is not going to get us there. It's not going to complete the projects from the 2017 package. It's not going to help local communities fill potholes and or build bridges, which are priorities for people in our communities. And she's frankly just not been a partner statewide, and that's unacceptable to me.
How would the transportation package affect Marion County?
So other than the fact that it's going to increase the transportation payroll tax on every person in Oregon, which is going to be a hit for people at the gas pump, it will maintain the 30% share that counties get statewide of the gas tax, and it will increase that. So we'll get additional revenue into our gas tax package so we can apply that. But that's not what we're supposed to be doing right now. Right now we're supposed to be buckling down and figuring out how to make Oregon affordable, safe, and accessible. And she's not willing to have those conversations. She's never once come to any of the counties and said, what are your biggest challenges? How do I help you be a partner and draft policy that gets us as far as possible down the road as a team?
How would you be different? How would your approach be different?
I would do exactly what I just said she should be doing. So in 2024, I was the president of the Association of Oregon Counties. I had the opportunity to lead my peers statewide in the legislature and advocate for local systems. We should be doing that. Government should be run from the bottom up, not the top down. And the fact that we don't have any partners at the state level that even fundamentally understand the base job we're supposed to do as a county or even in the cities is why we're a broken state. And I would fix that by creating partnerships and transparency in the process of government.
You claim to have secured $12 million for wildfire recovery. Do they include federal dollars? And maybe explain why you make that claim.
Yeah, well, in 2020, most Oregonians that were here know that 8 counties caught on fire on federal lands, and Marion County was one of those counties. We shared 2 fires with 2 other counties, Lynn and Clackamas County. In Marion County, we had almost 800 residential units burn, and we destroyed 3 cities, which is really unfortunate. In post-recovery, the federal delegation at the time with Congress partnered with Oregon and delegated $422 million in wildfire recovery aid with no strings attached. Those dollars didn't come until 2022. In the time between 2020 and 2022, the Oregon legislature had acted through the emergency board in one case and then through the session in the next case to partner lottery bonds and general fund to be able to work with counties to be able to create some stability in basic recovery. Oregon Housing and Community Services was the agency that was allotted those funds, and they had been charged to partner with counties to create priority recovery. And I advocated very successfully for a portion of the dollars that they received of that lottery fund and general fund dollars, and received $12 million of that. I led that work. I advocated for that work. I screamed for that work. It was an exhaustive process of passion. My colleague, Commissioner Cameron, is a victim of that fire. I fled that fire with my children. And the state has fundamentally failed Oregonians in wildfire recovery, and the $12 million that we received is a smidge of the amount of money that we should have already received to do the full recovery.
We haven't had a Republican governor of the state since Vicatillo was term limited out in 1987. That's 38 years ago. Yeah. So how could 2026 be any different? Yeah, well, I think, first of all, I think the candidate matters. And I think that I'm not your standard Republican candidate. I'm not an off-the-shelf politician that's worked my way up through politics and went to the legislature and created all kinds of laws and then said, oh, I'm going to go apply these laws. I've worked hard as an Oregonian, come from extreme poverty, managed to graduate high school on time, which was a feat in and of itself based on my circumstances. And I believe that we all want to thrive in the American dream. And we've never had a Republican stand forward that's experienced Oregon the way I've experienced Oregon and experienced achieving that dream the way I have. I don't think we've had a candidate, specifically a Republican candidate, that's been inspiring or one that even understands how to run a government. We've not had a candidate that's been an executive before. They've all been policymakers. And I think when they come in front of voters and citizens, and start talking about how they're going to execute some kind of agenda, people become dismayed. Because frankly, I don't need more policy on top of the world that I live in right now. I need somebody that understands who I am and what I need to thrive in a successful state that's safe and stable and has a great education system, as an example. I can deliver those things because I've lived through the challenges that Oregon has presented to Oregonians for a long time in the space of being a regular person. And I've achieved this level of government today to run it successfully. And we have to end it there. Yeah. Thank you, Danielle Bethell. Appreciate you being here on Eye on Northwest Politics. Thank you so much.